Each day in the United States, approximately 4,000 adolescents aged 12 to 17 try their very first cigarette. There's got to be a reason why they try this cigarette. They don't just get out of the chair and start smoking out of nowhere. There's got to be a reason why they went from where they were to there and smoked. Young adults these days are often influenced to do certain things that they might take as cool to themselves or to their peers. I know when I was small that I would do some things that I thought was cool to impress friends or just to fit in, and I sure hope I'm not the only person in this room who can admit to that. With that said, I'd like to talk to you folks today about the influence that tobacco advertising has on our young adults today. I have been researching this topic for the last couple of weeks, and I've learned some valuable information I'd like to share with you guys today. I'm pretty sure that most of us here today have seen tobacco advertisements in our daily lives, whether that be while we're driving, or we're going to the liquor store, on TV, in magazines, in our own mail, or even at sporting events. Tobacco industry has put a relentless effort into advertising and making you buy their products. In my presentation, I will discuss the health effects tobacco use has on young adults, how much money tobacco companies put in on tobacco advertisements, and finally, the tobacco use amongst young people. Let me first state the health effects that are associated with tobacco use among young adults. Most of us here today are well aware of some of the health risks that come along with using tobacco. Here are some of the basic examples. If one chooses to smoke cigarettes, then they can be at risk of lung cancer, chronic lung disease, cancers of the mouth, esophagus, and bladder. Cigarette smoking by young people can often cause instantaneous and serious complications. Some complications can occur during respiratory activities, such as jogging, playing sports, riding a bike, or other such things. The use of cigarettes can cause young adults to breathe much harder in a short amount of time, whereas if they did not smoke, that wouldn't be a problem. Cigarette smoking can also lead to other addictions, such as addictions to nicotine or to other drugs such as cocaine, heroin, PCP, shrooms, and of course, everybody's favorite, marijuana. Another use of tobacco is smoked tobacco, or also known as chewing tobacco, or also known as dip. Dip can cause cancer of the mouth that can affect your gums, cheeks, and even lips. Smoking tobacco is just as hazardous as smoking cigarettes. Oftentimes, people get into chewing tobacco because they think it's an alternative to smoking cigarettes, and it's another way to get a quick head change. But it's just as hazardous to your body. And smoking tobacco is commonly used in the sport of baseball, and this can influence young people who are playing baseball at their own high school or are avid fans of the baseball club for the sport of baseball, and this can cause them to get into that. Now that you've heard of some of the health risks that come by using tobacco, let me take a look at how much money tobacco companies spend on trying to influence you to use their products. There's no doubt that people in this world are going to do whatever it takes for you to buy their products. And tobacco companies are well known for this, and that's not a good thing. Let me state some facts for you guys. According to Susan Mizgala of the Watertown Daily News, in the New York State, the tobacco industry spends approximately $11 million per day to market its products. Most of the time, tobacco industries are trying to target young people with these ads because they know that they are more vulnerable to going out and buying tobacco. Here's another fact. The Federal Trade Commission cigarette report from 2003 stated that the cigarette companies spent more than $15.2 billion to promote their products. That statistic shows me that tobacco companies are trying very hard to lure people in on a regular basis. I mean, who wouldn't try to get someone to buy their own product? I have shown you some factual data of how much money and effort that tobacco industry has put into advertising. Now we'll show you how this can lead to the use among young adults. Tobacco use is a widespread trend that is seen everywhere. It becomes more and more popular every single day. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 46% of high school students have ever tried cigarette smoking, even one or two puffs. Now that is nearly 50%. It's quite astounding. Another statistic from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is that 19% of high school students smoke regularly. Even though the percentage has declined in years, it's still fairly high. Today, I've talked to you folks today about what health has come along with tobacco use at a young age, how much money tobacco companies spend on advertisements, and I showed you the evidence of tobacco use among young people. Before I let you folks go today, I would like to show you a video that tries to persuade you people to smoke. Button press right here?
PC, if you're using the PC. Yep.
Tell me something about smoking cancer. I mean, because they're copies, and just one of this answer smoking makes you stronger, and it makes your life much longer. Smoke frequently. money, smoke on the box. Yeah, the doctor says tobacco's bad. Makes your heart fail. And a picture too. Run, man. A picture of Bones Ray when he's wrong and wants to touch you. So he smokes it freaking much you have to get a convenient hole in your throat. Talk like a robot, smoke like a plane. You might be dead, but at least you aren't lame. Being in the ground is fun anyway. So smoke now, smoke frequently, and smoke every day. We are required to state the fact that our information isn't exact. Smoke, then people will like you. Smoke, 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 smoke.
Eliminating tobacco use at this point is nearly impossible. The tobacco companies make a living off of their ads. So let's just hope that our kids don't get into this horrible trend.
Gesundheit. So Lee, what did you think?
Like the topic, it was very interesting. Your presentation was very organized. It was clear on your points and thoughts and facts and everything. I thought the video editing was very nice. You touched up smoking tobacco. The video was pretty interesting and overall, I thought you did pretty good.
All right, I think the setup is pretty solid. You've got a good statistic that you use to get our attention. You've got a nice personal experience that you use and try and relate to us. Your goal is explained. The phrasing of your purpose statement still sounds a little broad, but we know generally where you're going, and there's a very clear setup of what the supporting points are going to be. So I think you're in good shape there. When it comes to organizational issues, I think you have a problem with the first point because it doesn't really fit what your goal is. The first point is all about these negative effects, and it's got little to do with the advertising process or the way people are trying to be influenced. It's background information at best, and the truth is that you've admitted yourself that most people know all these kinds of things. So you're not really adding much there. There were a couple of points in that section that sounded like they might be new. The suggestion that there could be sudden issues for people who were smoking, that they did, that they had some kind of breathing attack or sudden arrest when they were running or something along those lines. I think maybe that could be developed a little bit, but I'm not sure that it should be developed for this speech since your focus is on the advertising process and how that's going. Now, I thought you had a very good transition. You've got an internal summary and transition to the next point. Like I said, I just didn't think that first point fit very well. When you get to the next point, you've got some statistical information about how much is being spent on marketing. It seems fairly focused in New York. I think you could probably find some national numbers on this. None of it seems to specify, though, marketing to young people in particular. It just is talking about how much they spend on advertising. There's a context that's been left out of here. The tobacco companies entered into a consent decree about a dozen years ago that substantially restricted their advertising, particularly their advertising to young people, which is why you don't see Joe Camel anymore. And it's as if none of that exists, and you've left that entirely out of the argument. So we basically go from here's how much money they're spending to on a regular basis, on a daily basis to do advertising, to kids start smoking. And I don't see the connection between those two. And in fact, the information about the kids smoking, you've got a statistic that suggests that 46% of kids have tried tobacco. The relationship between trying tobacco and the advertising is specious. You don't really have anything on that particular point. And you kind of suggest that it's more popular, that it's becoming more popular, but I don't get any statistical information that suggests that it's becoming more popular. As a total percent of the population, the number of smokers has been dropping for the last 30 years on a regular basis from, one point being nearly 50% to now being probably much closer to 20% of the population. Now, if it's growing in this age group that you're talking about, I think that's information that you ought to have in the speech, and we don't get that information, so we need to have that. You kind of transition to the video clip, and the video clip is funny, and it's clever, but it's not an illustration of what you're talking about how tobacco companies are trying to recruit people to smoke, because it's a satire. It's not really a tobacco ad. And in fact, we're back to the issue. If your discussion is about how advertising is influencing us and our decision to smoke, and in particular advertising is influencing young people to smoke, then we ought to see some examples of the advertising that's influencing young people to smoke. This is not an ad that would encourage anybody to smoke with the sound, with a little song layered on top of it. It goes in the exact opposite direction because it is all satire. It should have the opposite effect. I think you do a pretty good job delivering the speech to us. You've got a little bit more time, so I think you could develop it more. The video clip at the end, like I said, it's a minute by itself, and I'm not sure that it really serves much purpose for the point that you're trying to make. So you start off well, you've got some good technical things on organization. The one point seems to be disconnected, and you need more content on the substantive part of your argument, which is about advertising and the influence it has on particularly young kids. All right, thank you.